Thanks for tuning in to Stripped Radio, where it's real, it's raw, it's real raw radio. Get ready to bear it all and get stripped.
I've been thinking about the people I've seen and the way they walk and the way they'll be. It's something I just have to learn to accept. Thoughts burning on that old gas stove. Yeah, stupid me, I don't even know. I guess the obvious just seems to slip on by. Well, I don't see what you see. I don't hear what you hear. I don't smile like you smile. It's a long, long road that we all ride on. We all have our own roads to ride. Well, I've been wondering what to do. It's 6 a.m., my buzz ain't through. I guess I should just try to go to sleep. Walking down that old straight road, it's harder than anything I know. I guess it's best just to travel it on your own. Well, I don't see what you see. I don't hear what you hear. I don't smile like you smile. It's a long, long road that we all ride on. We all have our own roads to ride. Well, I don't see what you see. And I don't hear what you hear. And I don't smile like you smile. It's a long, long road that we all ride on. We all have our own roads to ride. We all have our own roads to ride.
You're listening to Roads to Ride by Jeff Abraham, and you're on Stripped Radio. This is Barbie. I'm your host, along with my lovely co-host, Michelle. What's new, pussycat?
No, not much.
No much.
Enjoying the Arizona sunshine. Yay!
Yay, yay. I know you're glad to be home. Are you excited about the show?
Yes,
You
yes,
are?
I am.
I'm totally
Very much so.
excited. Totally excited. So today, anyway, the show is about keeping your New Year's resolution to lose weight and stay fit without the hype. We have Dr. Joe Leonardi, and from now on, I will call him Dr. Joe. I've already asked if that was okay, and he said it was. He's a chiropractor, and he lost an enormous amount of weight. In March of 2008, he weighed approximately 340 pounds. He started on a low-carb intake along with weight training and exercise, and within a year he was able to shed 140 pounds off of his body. And I've seen the pictures, and he looks amazing. So now he's helping other people to overcome their weight problems. He's really enthusiastic, as you'll hear on today's show. I absolutely love Dr. Joe. If you have any questions or comments for Dr. Joe or any of the hosts, give us a call at 712-432-3022, and you must enter the conference code 765054. So, Michelle, are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
Well, let's bring on Dr. Joe. Hi, Dr. Joe. How are you?
Hi there. Good afternoon, or good afternoon. It is after 12.
It is after 12. It is.
Good. Excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So, you're a chiropractor, and you had a weight problem, right?
I was morbidly obese. I wouldn't say I had a weight problem. I'd be a little more accurate in the description.
So, can I ask, at your heaviest, how big did you get?
The heaviest I was probably, when I got on the scale, it was 340 pounds. So about 340 was my heaviest.
So, and how tall are you?
5'11".
So, yeah, that's a pretty hefty guy. I saw your before and after pictures.
11'11" for it not to be hefty.
Right. Well, I'm tipping the scales a little to the right, if I say so myself.
So did you do this like with an Atkins type style diet, where it was low carbs and high protein?
Yeah, I did. I have read the Atkins book, and I modified it a little bit. I'm not and I get flack for this in the low carb community, but I am not a ultra high fat proponent like a lot of the people are. I eat, proteins, I eat fats. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't eat no fats. And when I'm losing weight, and I had a relapse I wrote about last year, so I'm losing, I keep my carbohydrate in the 20 to 30 gram range, and when I maintain, I keep it anywhere between 60 and 100 grams a day. So I'm not ultra low carbohydrate, I'm not long-term ketogenic, which is the other term, and I'm not on the... I don't overdo the fat. I do eat butter, I eat coconut oil, I eat things like that, but I don't go out of my way to overconsume the fats. I use, I guess, what would be a typical amount of them.
Right. Well, I've got butter that has 0 carbs, but it's high in fat, which is, we'll get to more of that later, but yeah, that's just when it's like trying to find the proper balance, So anyway, tell us about your journey. Go ahead, Michelle.
It's like cheese. Some cheeses are 0 carb, but isn't cheese really high in fat?
Cheese has a good amount of fat in it, but you eat a serving of it or two a day. You don't sit down there and grab a cheddar wheel and a knife and a fork. In my opinion, there are going to be people who would say just the opposite. There will be, this is just the way I do things. It's on the head of my blog, and I have this in my newer book too. I don't really need other people to be wrong for me to be right in my thinking. A lot of people get these arguments about what is better, what works best. Whatever works for people is fine with me. People who seek me out, I expect them to follow the routine and the dietary guidelines that I lay out, because they're seeking me out and they're paying me quite a bit of money. So, but if you have a way to do it, it works for you, and you're healthy and you're fit, who am I to argue with anyone? I am a huge fan of Jack LaLanne. Jack LaLanne was a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. Many people don't know that. Yeah. He was also, the iconic fit person. But for a lot of Jack's life, Jack was a vegetarian. Mm-hmm. I'm not. Right. And Jack lived to 96 years old. In his 70s, he was pulling a whole bunch of boats down a river. Who am I to argue?
Well, tell us about your journey. What did you do? I mean, you obviously tried diet after diet, and I'm assuming they failed you. So, let me ask this. This was back in March of 2008, right? That you lost all the weight? Congratulations, by the way. And
thanks.
I know you said it already, but how much total did you lose?
I lost 140 pounds. I was down to 200. I had taken my little after pictures, and I felt I was too thin at 200 pounds. I don't like to be scrawny, and I didn't like my appearance at 200, so I had a lot of my weight to drift up to 210, and then I maintained that pretty much for 3.5 years. There was a small increment of time in there. I was going to compete in one of those strongman contests, so I bulked myself up to about 250 pounds because it takes a lot of mass to move some of those weights. And when I decided, I could have ended up hurting my shoulder, so I didn't enter, and then I just dropped right back down to 210, and then I had my relapse last year.
Right. Yeah, I have a relapse story, but it was just a brief moment. We'll talk about that later. So you did it in a year, or less than a year, and you pretty much took off the weight that you had put on, and you were actually running for Congress. Did you win, by the way?
No, thank God I didn't. I hate to call myself a congressperson today. I can't. My view of politics has changed dramatically over the years. I think they're all worthless.
So, you didn't have any fun in the process then?
Oh, I had a blast running. What I learned after the run is what really changed my mind a lot about it. I was a political analyst for our local TV station for a little while, and the more I discovered, I discovered a lot when I ran, and then afterwards, I came to some strong realizations, but politics isn't really my thing anymore.
Well, politics isn't my thing either, so we're in the same boat, and I think Michelle probably is in there with us too, and we're all just rowing away. I know Michelle I have a ton of what I like to call rapid fire questions, where I just kind of fire off at you and you fire back. But I know Michelle has her own questions because she has a different diet than you and I do. So I'm going to let Michelle take it from, for a little bit, and then we'll just come back to me.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I'm overweight. I've actually lost quite a bit of weight this last month. I quit eating the breads and drinking soda, even diet, so I don't touch the sodas either. And I think that's where a lot of it came from. A lot of my weight loss came from was cutting those two particulars out. And I've looked into the Atkins diet, but since I don't eat the meat, that it really won't. That doesn't apply to me. I do eat a lot of beans, and I'm cutting down on the rice because I know rice is pretty fattening too. I don't eat a whole lot of sugar, so I don't understand. How that I'm not able to continue losing the weight. I've incorporated exercising, and it's coming off slow, very slow.
Okay.
I guess I'm looking for something that will help boost the weight loss that I had initially when I cut out the breads and the sodas. I mean, it was like 30 pounds came off immediately.
Well, the thing is, I always tell people never to focus on how fast you lose weight. I don't believe in setting a goal date for weight loss. I believe in setting interval goals, but I don't ever have a date to reach them by. Weight comes off as weight comes off. I mean, people tell me, oh, you lost that in a year. How did you do it? It just came off. I ate what I ate. I exercised how I exercised, and the weight came off at the rate it came off. But when you say you don't eat sugar, you have to be very aware that many foods metabolize into sugar. I have a YouTube video, one of the first YouTube videos I did on my blog, where I sit there and I grab a thing of oatmeal, and when you metabolize oatmeal in the gut, it breaks down into sugar. When you eat pasta, it metabolizes in the gut, and it breaks down into sugar. Bread you've already cut out, but bread metabolizes into sugar. So a lot of your starches will metabolize down into sugar. And so you're actually getting sugar from other sources. And again, when you're losing, because I am a low carbohydrate proponent, it's important to keep those kind of foods to a minimum. As you're maintaining later on, then you could start to add them back into your diet. And I own the word diet. People say, oh, well, you're not on a diet, it's a lifestyle change or this.
Right.
No, the word diet is what you consume.
Right.
And I'm a low carbohydrate dieter. That's the way I eat. But I eat considerably more carbohydrates, and my maintenance phase of life where I hope to never have to go back down to this 20 or 30 grams a day again once I beat the best of this relapse back.
I hear you. Well, from what I hear you saying to Michelle, though, is like, because I know from, doing the Atkins diet a long time ago, that most meats don't have a lot of carbs, if any. But a lot of vegetables and fruits and stuff do. And if I believe you're vegan, Michelle, or is it vegetarian?
Well, I'm more of a vegetarian because I like my honey, a little bit of honey in my coffee, but honey seems to, I don't look at honey like I look at sugar.
Right.
Yeah, well, you might not look at it that way, but your body doesn't care. It's the same thing once it's in your body. Unless you're getting raw, unpasteurized sugar, honey, that will metabolize differently. But most people don't have access to the raw honey, and you have to be careful. You have different state regulations. The same thing with dairy. Dairy won't spike your glucose if you drink raw dairy, or if you eat raw dairy, it has a less of an impact. But unfortunately for most of us, I think raw dairy is legal in Pennsylvania, but since I just don't bother with milk, I haven't really looked into it that much.
Is raw the same as organic?
That's something else you have to look at as well, because the processing of foods has a major impact on the way they become metabolized in your body, because for lack of a better way of putting it, sometimes the pasteurization, these high heats, these processings start to pre-digest the food, so they'll break down even quicker into sugars than they would through the natural digestive pathways.
Is raw the same as organic, or no? Or depends?
These labels are so all over the place. You can get something organic that has been pasteurized, so you have to really do your homework and research. I don't get that crazy about it because I just don't eat those particular foods. Like, some people are very regimented. I would prefer to eat grass-fed beef and free-range poultry, but this economy hasn't been the best for a lot of people, myself included, and grass-fed beef costs an arm and 4 legs, and I just don't have the money to spend on it all the time, so I'll eat leaner cuts of meat, and I won't have them as frequently if I could afford to have grass-fed beef. Back when I had a higher income stream, I could eat grass-fed beef more frequently, so I make accommodations. I'm not as regimented as a lot of people are when it comes to certain things, but my regimentation, if I do have one, is to make sure my carbohydrate levels stay in a certain range, and but I do stay away from processed foods as much as possible, actually pretty much altogether, and I don't eat any of the simple sugars at all. It's pretty much, I try to keep my food as close to nature as possible, so if you can't find it in nature in one form or another, I try not to eat it, like I said, whenever I can, and I don't eat very much of processed foods these days.
Right, yeah, and see, I do have a lot of pasta. Well, not a lot, but pasta is a part of my diet, so I think I will have to cut that out or bring it down to a very minimum. I think that's where my problem is in that pasta, because, it makes up for 50% of my diet.
Well, then that eventually will break down into sugar. There are books online for the vegetarian low-carbohydrate diet, or Amazon has quite a few of them. I have never read them. I know Barbie had told me you were a vegetarian, and I Googled a little bit, and there are some resources out there. I've had 2 clients in the past who were vegetarians, but they weren't that committed to it. They're back eating meat now. But at the time, I tried to find them some resources, but they're out there if you look for them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yes.
No, you're welcome.
Also, carrots. I was told that carrots are high in carbs. Is that true?
Yeah, they're high in sugar. Carrots, more of your root vegetables, carrots, potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, they have a higher sugar content, so you have to be cautious when you're eating them. I tell people to just avoid them while they're losing, and then when they're maintaining, it really becomes a matter of just testing. You sit down, you eat something, you check the scale. If you start noticing an increase in it, you figure what food you've added back in, and you cut that down or eliminate it altogether, depending on your particular sensitivity to the food.
Okay, so stick with the dark greens.
Oh, yeah, you can't go wrong with dark green leafy vegetables. There's just, and even not all the, like cauliflower, which isn't dark or green, but it's a good one as well. Yeah, if you stick with the dark green leafy vegetables, you can rarely go wrong with any of those particular vegetables. And I eat those, anywhere between, well, I don't know about the serving size, because my serving isn't the same as everyone else's, but I probably have them 2 or 3 times a day. Someone asked me one day what I considered a serving of chicken. I said, I don't know. Sometimes I get the rotisserie chicken at the grocery store and I eat it.
You and I are laughing, but Michelle's cringing right now.
Right. Well, it's meat is high protein. So,
yeah.
Well, yeah, because carrots and potatoes and everything you mentioned, I love those. I eat carrots like they're going out of style, so I guess I should be giving those to the horses instead.
Well, it depends on what your goal. If you're still losing weight and it's coming off and you're fine and all that other stuff, and you like eating those foods, because they're not unhealthy foods. In maintenance phase, I tell people they can add carrots in. I tell them potatoes, there's a whole new thing on potatoes about something called resistant starch, and I'm not well versed on it enough to talk about it, but I'm going to learn about it a little bit more, where potatoes may not be the super villain they've been painted out to be in low carbohydrate area, but I like simplicity. And for me, it's about looking at the macronutrient and making sure that, and I don't like saying I can't have, I choose not to have certain macronutrients. And I just, like I said, I like simplicity. Steve Jobs made $1 billion on making things simple. And I think simplicity is the easiest route to go, because the less you have to think about it, the less you obsess about it, and the more you can focus on getting fit, which is actually the primary motivating factor for me. And it really is more about what I push and talk about is fitness more over weight loss. The tagline of my first book was weight loss is a side effect of fitness. So I focus much higher on the fitness area than I do on everything else, and weight loss will just take care of itself.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay. Nice. Barbie,
Okay.
I'm done.
You're done?
I got my questions.
Well, I definitely want to get into the can't exercise on low-carb diet issue, because it's a myth that people need to hear about. So I want to go back to how you modified your low-carb diet. You said that you were a little bit concerned about the extra fat that Atkins allows during the induction period.
I just don't care for all the fat. I'm not concerned about it. I may have said it like that, and I apologize if I misspoke. I just don't like it. I don't feel good when I eat all that dietary fat. Taking half a stick of butter and adding it to my food, I don't. It's not palatable to me,
right.
So I don't eat it. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying I don't eat fats. I mean, I eat bacon, I eat eggs, I do eat a little bit of cheese. I'm not really big on cheese. I eat a little bit of it. I'll eat. Like I said, I eat chicken, which is not that high in fat. But a typical day, this morning I had 4 eggs for breakfast, and I had some turkey bacon. And, everybody says, why do you have turkey bacon? You can have regular bacon, and turkey bacon is processed, which it is. But turkey bacon microwaves easier than regular bacon, and I eating breakfast in my office in the morning. So I have to make these accommodations. Like I said, I'm not perfect. For lunch today, I'll probably have, yesterday I had half of the rotisserie chicken, the other half is in the fridge. I'll probably have that and some broccoli. And, I'll put a little bit of butter or coconut oil on top of the chicken to bring some moisture back. morning I had some cashews. Mid-afternoon, I don't know if I'll eat much or anything. Tonight, I think I'm going to have a little bit of ham off the bone. And again, I think I have Brussels sprouts in my fridge, or I'll have a salad with it. So I don't go crazy. I don't focus so much on eliminating fat. If I have to have something, I'll splurge with fat where I won't have carbohydrate. Like people like around here go out for pizza. Well, I don't eat pizza, but I can have chicken wings. And so I'll have chicken wings, which are higher in fat, but I don't do it. It's not part of my everyday diet, 2 or 3 meals a day.
Right. I see. Okay.
Well,
okay.
Go ahead.
What about the eggs? Eggs. Tell us about eggs.
They taste great. You can eat them. With my eggs, I try to get. This is the one thing I'll spend the extra couple bucks on every time. I try to get free range pastured eggs, cage free, when possible. I have one of my patients actually has her own chickens, and one of my other patients owns a farm, and they'll occasionally bring me some eggs in. When they do, I'm in heaven, because there's just nothing in this world like that tastes as good as eggs like that. Yolks are so much more yellow. They're vibrant. They're delicious. But some mornings I go out for breakfast and I just order the eggs that are at the restaurant. I don't ask them where they get them from. I don't. It's just one of those particular things.
Right.
Well, but yeah, as far as egg goes, I do try to get the more of the free range pasture type egg.
Okay. Well, I see. I don't do dairy, but I do drink the almond milk, the unsweetened almond milk, and now I'm even questioning that because I thought the nuts and aren't they high in fat?
Yeah, they're high in fat, but they're good healthy fat.
It's a good healthy fat. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
I always thought they were good for you too.
Yeah, they're fantastic for you. Again, as long as you're going as close to nature as possible, you rarely can go wrong, because most foods that are closer to nature aren't very high in carbohydrate. The fats they're higher in tend to be better better fats for you. And the carbs they have in them, again, I'm not a ketogenic advocate, and I don't go, and I've read science all over the place. I like to apply common sense to most of what I do. My body produces enzymes to metabolize certain starches. My body is smarter than any scientist. So when I'm maintaining, and we'll talk more in the maintaining phase than the losing phase, I have 2 or 3 apples a day. I have a serving or 2 of berries. I'll even have the dreaded banana for the low carb people go nuts on bananas. I'll have a small banana, maybe one or 2 or 3 times a week. It's about applying some just common sense to it once you're at your goals. Getting to your goals, I just keep them all out because it's easier to do it. It's a more simple approach, and it makes it work.
Right. See, I love bananas. I
do too.
So the bananas are high in.
They're high in sugar.
What?
Bananas are high in sugar. I mean, yeah, they're just high in sugar. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. There's no other way to view it than that. They're high in sugar. But again, when you're maintaining, it's not the end of the world. And what I like to do is I will have some type of healthy fat with it, because this way it helps to slow the release of conversion to blood sugar. It keeps the insulin spike a little bit lower. So I may have it with a natural peanut butter or an almond butter or something to that effect.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Interesting. Well, I wanted to ask you because... Thank you. I wanted to ask you because I know a lot of people are curious about this. What's wrong with eating, like regular bacon and red meat more than twice a week and having more saturated fat in your diet? Is there a reason why you should avoid it? Is there a purpose for it, or?
From a complete health view, there really is no reason to avoid it if you're healthy. I just don't like to eat it that often.
Right.
There's just no other. Sometimes I do things just out of personal preference. I don't have a sound scientific explanation for everything. I would, like I said, if I could eat grass-fed beef, I would have it more frequently if I could afford it. Since I can't afford it, now there are some weeks, and like I said, I am not. I don't know what word to use. I don't want to insult people. I'm not super rigid about certain things. There are some weeks that I'm crazy busy. My work day, my day starts at 6 in the morning and it goes until 7 p.m. I may buzz a fast food restaurant, grab a double cheeseburger, and throw the bun out. It's just sometimes I do what I have to do. What I mostly focus on dietarily is keeping the carbohydrates low or lower, and I try not to eat any. Like I said, I try to keep it as close to nature as possible. I really have a real simple guideline when it comes to that.
Right.
Yeah. See, a couple years ago, when I was eating the beef and stuff regularly, I would order from, if I went to fast food, I would order a burger without the bun, and they would wrap it in lettuce. I mean, it was iceberg lettuce, but it was still, it was without the bun. So I thought that was a pretty ingenious idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it works. We live in a real world. Like, one of my favorite things when I get into some of the people who love the, quote, scientific studies, because I always get a kick out of that. And I do teach, so I straddle the fence as an academic and a clinician. But last time I checked, I don't live my world in a controlled clinical study. So, everybody, science this, and the studies say this, and the research says this, and, shove it.
You have to
common
use...
sense in my mind, rules the day, and our bodies have enzymes for certain starches. So when I'm maintaining, I have certain starches. Like I said, I just try to keep it really, really close to nature, focus on my fitness levels, focus on my exercise. And one of the other things that I really became aware of, and Barbie, I just emailed you something through Facebook, but one of the things I become more aware of as I'm getting more focused and fit is my body starts craving the fuel that it needs to repair and to thrive.
I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of people don't realize that when you reduce your carbs, you're increasing fat intake, and that becomes your fuel source, right? In the absence of carbs, right?
Yeah, you'll burn fat, but you can also, your body can produce glucose as needed. It can break down either from glycogen stores. It can do conversion of protein in the diet into glucose if it needs it. So your body can get energy sources from a lot of different foods. The body is very smart, and it can take care of itself. I mean, Dr. Lane Sebring in the documentary film The Perfect Human Diet, he called protein time-released glucose, because your body can convert it into glucose as necessary without having an over-the-top insulin response.
Well, I was reading an article recently that had talked about that, and there was some concern about eating too much protein, because that high amount of protein can turn into glucose in the body. So we basically have to use our body like a...
I haven't the faintest idea. I know there's research that says that. Jimmy Moore, a big low carbohydrate guy, made the comment of having too much protein is akin to having a piece of cake. Like I said, you can look at the pictures I just sent you. I eat a lot of protein, and it doesn't convert the body fat for me. We have to exercise too. If you only focus on one level of and I like to call it the tripod, the 3 E's: eating, exercise, and energy. And if you focus solely on one of those E's, you're not really going to get to your goals, because it becomes the wrong focus. They need to be in balance. You have to have a nice positive mental attitude, mental energy towards things. You have to exercise a certain way, and you have to eat properly to feed that. Once you do all three, a lot of the other conversation becomes less important, because your body starts going in a direction where it requires certain fuels to feed it, and you eat those fuels to feed it. And you find your own way along the way. Like my book, I have guidelines, but you find your own way when you're doing it. And it's people get mad at me when I say it, but it's not hard. It really isn't difficult. It's just a matter of having a plan, working the plan, and then doing everything accordingly. Gaining weight was very easy. Even during the relapse, it was really easy. And losing the weight again has been very easy, too. I was 294 in July. I'm 234 now.
Wow. That's amazing.
Oh, nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just applying the same principles I did in the past.
Right. Well, I mean...
So let's, on the exercise, what... people, when I know that a lot of people, when they say you need to exercise, people picture having to go to the gym, pay membership. With me, I walk a lot. I mean, I don't drive, so I walk everywhere, and I'm out in the middle, on the outside of town. So it's a good walk to get to where I need to go. Besides just the walking, what other simple exercises can people do in their own home?
They can do the basic calisthenics. You can just sit down. You can do push-ups. You can do sit-ups. You can do crunches. You can do something called a burpee, which is a squat thrust with a push-up. Jumping jacks. One of the things I refer to people who don't have a lot of money and don't have equipment is if they have access to the internet. This is where I give plugs to other people. But Jack is dead. But you Google Jack LaLanne. All of his old stuff is online today.
Yeah.
And you can do those simple exercises at home. But what I tell people, the most important thing is make sure you exercise your body, your entire body. You need some progressive resistance training, which is commonly referred to as weightlifting. But you can also do calisthenics and different types of resisted exercises, and then you need to do the endurance work, the walking, the jogging, the biking, and your body needs to be exercised in one way or another 7 days a week. We don't live our body. I always get a kick out of, I 3 times a week, 20 minutes a day. And I'm like, well, yeah, the only thing you're going to lose in that is money, because our bodies are on a 24-hour clock. It is our natural progression, 24 hours, give or take. So why wouldn't you want to give it some type of exercise each and every day? I lift weights. I don't do the same body part every day of the week. I have it split up where I work my body parts 2 days a week with the rest in between. But yeah, I do exercise every day, 7 days a week. And I wasn't the only one who advocated that. Again, I love to go back to Jack. Jack LaLanne was the same thing. You have to get out there 7 days a week. Your body has to be moved. Movement is life, and without movement, life will eventually cease.
Right.
Is Jack the one that made the juices? Is that the same guy you're talking about?
Yeah, Jack LaLanne had the Jack LaLanne juicer. He founded Bally Fitness, took over his gyms at one time. Again, like I said, I have a lot of admiration for Jack, but I wouldn't drink fruit juices, even though Jack was a big juicing guy.
You wouldn't drink the fruit juices. Why? Is because of the carbs? Or?
Yeah, fruit juice, juicing fruits tends to concentrate the sugar and removes the most important, one of the more beneficial part of the fruit, which is the fiber. So,
okay.
And all you're going to do is, it's like drinking sugar. It isn't the same thing, but it's very similar to drinking sugar water, except you're having fructose water.
Oh, imagine that.
Mm-hmm. Because he was healthy his entire life. He never had weight issues. He never got away from being fit. So he's a different type of person. Most of the people I deal with haven't been fit since they were in their teens.
Right.
Different type of person.
I
know, because I juice, but I put like kale and Swiss chard and a lot of greens in it, and I add an apple to sweeten it up.
Right. No, I don't have any problem with juicing per se. It's just, again, juicing will concentrate sugars and remove the fiber, which is one of the more important things we can get in our diet. And we tend to, we always talk about getting fiber, and people will eat bran muffins and oatmeal, and I'm like, God, you want fiber? Have spinach. And not only do you get the fiber, but you also get the fluid content in the vegetable. So I prefer spinach and lettuces and broccoli and cauliflower and foods like that are a better source of fiber, and they also have a whole ton of micronutrients in them that are important to overall health.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Barbie?
Yeah, I just, I want to backtrack to when he was talking about cauliflower.
Sure.
Years ago, like when I first met my husband, he was on the Atkins diet. And I went on it. And then I put my mom on it. because she was living with us at the time. But I found really creative ways, to make the things that I still loved and keep it low carb. Like you said, with the cauliflower, it's not as high in carbohydrates as a lot of other vegetables are. And I just want to give this real quick recipe. We still do. We both love chicken cordon bleu, and we love mashed potatoes. But of course, with the Atkins diet, starchy's no good. So I would mix that. I would, boil the cauliflower soft, like potatoes, and I would add a little bit of butter and a tablespoon of sour cream, and then, because sour cream's low carb too, believe that or not, and just add a little bit of seasoning. And then with the chicken cordon bleu, rather than using flour, I would use Parmesan cheese, which is also very low carb, and I was able to, have the chicken with the ham and the cheese in the middle. And honestly, I thought I wasn't going to like it. And that was just something that I came up with on the top of my head. I'm going through, like, the cabinets, and every time I go to the store, I was looking at carbs. Now, like I said, that was 12 years ago. And I've put the weight back on double. And in preparation for this show, I did the Jillian Michaels detox, and I went ahead and started the low carb. And I already told you about this, and I think I told Michelle, but New Year's Eve, we had a pre-planned barbecue, and I was staying away from the carbs. I had some pepperoni and a couple bites of cheese, and everybody's like, "Oh, come on, one day it's not going to hurt you." And no, I'm not trying to blame it on anybody else. I'm very weak. I'm very weak, especially when it comes to food. But it just, so I had all this food New Year's Eve, and the next morning I wasn't being, I just didn't go straight back onto the diet. So anyway, I'm in the process again of the detox and the 20 carbs a day, 20 or under a day. But in the last 2 weeks, I've lost almost 11 pounds.
Good for you.
Just from detoxing my body.
Mm-hmm. See, with you, your biggest issue, in my opinion, is the way you phrase things, and your mind will follow the phraseology. I go on the diet.
Yeah.
You just have to really stop saying that. That's why, like, I can have a splurge day or two without batting an eye, and I get right back on track. I don't go on the diet. I go back to eating properly. I always use the term splurge, and I wish I could take credit for that. That was, again, Jimmy Moore when I was interviewed by Jimmy. He called that in my book splurge days. I just used to call them free days. But I can do that every now and then, but it's just not part of my normal diet. When you go on and off, when your head goes on and off, you're going to get trapped in the whole recycling, rebounding, yo-yo effect that can get us. And I never use the word I'm on a diet, or I'm on the Atkins diet, or I'm on a low-carb diet.
Right.
I'm a low-carbohydrate proponent. I eat a low-carbohydrate diet.
Right.
If you can just do one little change like that, you'll be amazed at how much easier everything becomes and starts to follow, because we have to retrain our brain, and then our body follows our brain. It's like what I tell people, never tell yourself it's hard, because if you tell yourself it's hard, one of these, you make it much easier to stop doing what you're doing properly. You just always tell yourself, this is easy, because it really is easy. And once you train your brain to convince your brain that it's easy, it becomes easy in the real world. And then in a couple of weeks, you don't even think about it anymore. I rarely read the contents of a package, because I rarely eat anything out of a package.
Right.
But I don't really concern myself overall with the total carbohydrate content at this point, because I know if I eat these foods, I'll be in my range for losing or maintaining without thinking about it anymore. I don't even think about my meals. I just make them on Sunday for the week. I take them, I pop them out of the fridge, and I eat.
Right.
Exactly. See, I told Barbie that same thing. Don't call it a diet. You set yourself
Yeah,
to
she
fail.
did. Yep, she did.
It's the same way I don't like New Year's resolutions. I tell people, don't make resolutions, set goals. Because, whether we want to accept it or not, we're programmed in society to break our resolutions.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, it's been 2 weeks. Have you broken your resolution? I mean, that's how
Yep.
people talk. Well, did you break your resolution? So just set goals. Don't worry so much about a resolution. Just set goals and focus on your goals.
Dang it, there goes iHeartRadio. It never fails.
Coffee's okay, right?
Yeah.
Coffee's fine. I drink coffee every morning.
Coffee is okay because if it wasn't,
drink it black.
I do too. Sometimes I'll add some honey to it. I don't add the honey to it all the time. I think mainly when I'm out somewhere I'll have honey because I don't like the restaurants. I add honey to it.
I use Splenda.
Well, make coffee weak, and making a weak coffee actually makes it more bitter.
Yeah, I use Splenda.
Really?
Hmm?
And if coffee wasn't okay, there would be dead people, and I would be in jail. I mean, giving up my sweets and coffee, it's not happening.
Before I leave the house, and I have one or two during the course of the morning at the office. Then I stop because, the caffeine, even after all this time, will affect me where I can't sleep. So I try not to have coffee after like 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, I want to touch on a myth here. People think that by drinking the diet sodas that they're losing weight. Can you confirm or
Deny.
Or deny that the aspartame that is in the diet sodas prevents your body from burning fat?
I'll tell you what. The first time I lost weight, I was drinking 2 or 3 or 4 diet sodas a day. I didn't have any trouble.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't have any trouble at all losing weight. Aspartame has other potential harmful effects. I mean, there's reports all over the place. It's an individual sensitivity thing with aspartame, but I wish I don't drink diet soda anymore because it has nothing to do with losing weight. I just prefer not to because it's not something you find in nature. But the first time around, I drank, like I said, 2 or 3 diet sodas, sometimes 4 every day of the week, and weight still fell off. So I don't know if it's an individual thing or if there's something to the studies. I know a lot of studies will sit there and say, well, your body will still release insulin because it has the craving, because it has the sweet taste, and that's a psychological thing. As far as I know, physiologically speaking, and again, there are studies on both sides of this, but just break it down in the core physiology. Insulin responds to sugar, not solely, but predominantly to sugar, and if you're not drinking sugar, the body's not going to say, oh, well, it tastes sweet, let me let some insulin out. The pancreas doesn't know that it tasted sweet. That's something in your head, and so I'm not really sure of that. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell people yes or no definitively because I don't know definitively, but I do know that in the year I dropped to 140, I was drinking diet soda every day.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't drink it anymore, but I was then.
Right.
Well, we're almost.
Yeah, I was told by my doctor that that do not drink diet sodas because of the aspartame, because in your system it turns into a wood grain alcohol, which in turn prevents your body from burning the fat. But you were probably also doing a lot of exercising and changed other parts of your diet as well.
Mm-hmm,
so
exactly.
The diet soda probably didn't have much of a bearing on that since you were doing other things.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I said that's what it was with me. That's how it was with me. But again, I don't focus on weight loss, I focus on fitness. So, and that really does give you a different way to view things. If you're focusing on fitness, again, things tend to take care of themselves.
Right. Very good.
Well, we are almost on an hour. We got about 10 minutes for an hour. I'm ready to go into rapid fire. If you guys want to take a break, we can take a quick break. If not, we can just keep on rolling.
Well, we can take a break. If you want to take a break, that's fine with me too.
You need a break, Michelle? Okay.
Let's take a break. I need to go blow my nose again.
All right, we'll take a quick break.
down. I like the sea and I like the breeze. Just makes a man feel free. Salty air in my lungs, the bloods are pumping in my veins. Blue sea and blue sky, it makes me think I'll be okay. Time moves slow, feeling low. You know I gotta go back home. I missed the big time, I missed the stars. I ramble all along the way. It's impossible to see I'm here, but I'm coming back home.
And now, back to Stripped Radio, where it's real, it's raw, it's Real Raw Radio.
That was Going Home by Carrie Cano, C-A-N-N-O. Welcome back to Stripped. Michelle, are you still there?
Yes.
Dr. Joe,
I'm here.
were you going to say something, Michelle?
So let me ask you. I'm 5'8". What would be my ideal weight? I'm shooting for 150. See, at my heaviest, I was 240, and I'm just now. I'm at like 198, I think. And
Whatever you're comfortable at.
And I was shooting for 150. Because, I figure that's nice.
That's about right.
I think my ideal weight would be 140, 145.
Whatever you're comfortable
Am I
at. Yeah, I don't get into the whole what should I weigh type attitude. Whatever weight you're comfortable. Like I said, I got down to 200. My goal at that time was actually to be down to 180. And when I got down to 200, I'm like, oh wow, I do not like the way I look like I'm almost fading away and going away and things like that. So I kept my weight at 210. It's where you feel comfortable as long as you're fit and healthy. Yeah, the number is arbitrary. Even though I advocate daily weighing, I don't like people to focus too much on the weight. I use the scale as a tool. It's an accountability tool. It's a way to check progress. But no one should ever become a slave to the numbers on the scale.
Did you say daily weighing?
Yes, every day.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't handle it. That's so depressing.
I think if I cut out the pastas, I think that's going to make a huge difference.
Michelle, they do actually make low-carb
Yeah, it will. And
pasta.
the reason I weigh myself daily isn't because I'm overly concerned what the number says. It is a feedback mechanism. It is a way to be accountable. Like, people are always looking for support. That's what I do for people. But one of the ways they can develop self-support is by being accountable to themselves. The only person that's going to be lied to on the scale, the only person that's there with you in the morning is you. And I wake up, first thing I do, I get out of bed, I hop on the scale, I make a note of the number, I see if it went down or up, and then I know that I'm on track. I have because I do have a goal weight that I want to be at, but I don't hold it in stone. I might get down to 210 this time, but if my suits fit differently than they did in the past, or I feel less comfortable or more comfortable, I may change that when I get to it. But it is so important to keep accountable to ourselves, and it also is a little mechanism. If you know you're getting on the scale when you wake up, and you're sitting at home and there are 3 or 4 cupcakes sitting in front of you, you know it's going to have a negative impact, so that also works as a tool to help you develop your willpower.
No, I gain weight just looking at the cupcakes. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. But I wanted to tell Michelle, they actually have low-carb pasta. So you don't have to give it up, and it's not bad.
No.
No?
No, don't eat that.
Why?
Garbage. No, it has. There's been so much about that out there that it actually affects blood sugar the same way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I love pasta. I'm Italian. I'm first generation. My father came here from Sicily. When I'm maintaining my weight, I just substitute spaghetti squash, and it works wonders.
Spaghetti what?
Marinara sauce. You can have it with an Alfredo sauce. You can have it with meatballs if you make sure you keep your sugar low in the sauce. You can do a million things with spaghetti squash. Pasta has no real taste. It takes on the flavor of what you're adding to it. And so if you really need to have pasta, have spaghetti squash. It's natural. It's easy. You can even make it in the microwave. It doesn't take very long. You split it open, you fork out the strands, make sure that you don't get any of the seeds in, and it's not identical in texture, but it works.
Right. What about soy? I mean, I have a lot of soy in my diet, too.
I am not a fan of soy for many reasons. I really think soy became one of those industrial products that were left over. In men, it has some fairly negative documented effects. If you like soy, you feel good eating soy, it doesn't bother you, knock yourself out. But I'm personally not a fan of soy. I just don't. But I eat meat and you don't. So there's also the different approach to that as well. It can be a decent protein replacement if you're not eating meat. But overall, I'm not a huge fan of soy, and a lot of it is from what I've read, and a lot of it is just a personal thing. It is very processed to get soy protein into different things, so I would tend to stay away from it from that point of view. But again, that's just me.
One of the things I forgot to mention was with this new healthy eating, not diet.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Healthy
increased.
diet. You're eating a healthy diet. You're just
Right.
not on a diet.
Right.
That's the key phrase. You're eating a healthy diet. You're not on a diet.
But one of the things I failed to mention
That's what
is.
I tried to tell her.
Yeah, she did. But one of the things that I didn't mention is I could drink coffee like all day long, and I mean literally that's what I did is I drank coffee all day long. But now I've added a lot of water, and I'm actually drinking, and I'm going to be exact here, 101.4 full ounces, which is 3/4 and 5.4 ounces, whatever. So I've added that because that's the biggest jug my husband could find. I was actually looking for a gallon. But I drink 101.4 ounces of water, from the time I get up until I go to bed. So how important is it to include water in your healthy eating, and how much water should you be drinking every day?
Water is the most, perhaps one of the most important nutrients we can take in. I mean, we are mostly water. I drink. I don't count it that exactly, but between plain water and coffee and unsweetened iced tea, which are the three primary liquids I take in the course of the day, I probably drink about a gallon of fluid a day, and I would say half of that comes from plain water. I try to, that would be a guesstimate. Yeah, that would be a guesstimate. But water you can't go wrong with.
You said a half a gallon?
I'm excited to hear that tea is okay.
You said a half.
Unsweetened tea is great. I mean, I love unsweetened teas. I like to make my own, but sadly, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm lazy. So oftentimes I just I go to the store and they have again, this is one of the few times, like I said, I'm not 100% perfect on everything. It's processed, it's packaged, but they have the unsweetened tea. The drawback is it has some of the crap colorings in it that aren't really good for the body, but I'm not guzzling 3 gallons of unsweetened iced tea a day. I'm having maybe 2 or 3 glasses of it over the course of the day. Primarily, from this point forth in the day, I drink a lot of water.
You said a half a gallon approximately?
And I was also, I drink a glass of water before I eat, which helps fill you up.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. Yeah, put something in the stomach and it helps fill you up. Yeah, and that's not a bad idea to do. I mean, there's big internet, what do they call them, memes, I don't even know, about drinking water before bedtime to prevent heart attacks or something like that. One of these days I have to look into the validity of that because it shows up oftentimes on a lot of things I read. I drink water up until I go to bed. I'm going to get up and urinate because of all the water I consume over the course of a day anyway. So, I don't stop drinking water at any particular time. There's some people that it bothers, but low-carbohydrate diets actually promote the expulsion of fluid as well. Mm-hmm. So, I'm sure once you start eating a lower-carbohydrate diet, you notice you're spending more time in the bathroom, and that's not an abnormal response. And that comes from the fact that when you eat sugars or carbohydrates, and insulin will cause retention of sodium, so water will follow sodium, and so you'll retain more water, so you don't urinate as frequently. When you're on a lower carb diet, that's why you can get away with eating more salt. I don't know if you've noticed when you eat lower carbs, you tend to use salt a little more freely. I use Sicilian sea salt because sea salt is superior, and I'm Sicilian. So
I do not use.
And I tend to use a little more salt than I have in the past, but I'm still urinating so much that there's no, I don't believe there's a large negative impact of that on my health. So that's what I know a lot of people might start noticing if they decide to adapt a lower carbohydrate, whether it's Atkins, whether it's my diet, whether it's South Beach, which is a lower carbohydrate diet, protein power. They might notice that they're excreting urine like crazy, and they might wonder why, and that's one of the primary reasons why.
Well, I don't use salt at all. At all. I mean, literally, I don't cook with it. I don't, nothing. We do have sea salt in the house because my husband, it's like a thick coat of salt on his food. Everything. I'd be surprised if he didn't put salt on his cereal. Not kidding. But is it important to have salt in your diet? Because like I said, I actually, if I'm not mistaken, my doctor told me one time that I needed to eat more salt. But
salt is actually, and the sea salts are very healthy because they also have some minerals in them. But you'll notice that you'll use less salt if you cook with salt. Because when you cook with salt is nothing really more than a flavor enhancer. And this is nothing scientific. This is because I like the Food Network, and Alton Brown said this. What salt does is that it will actually bring out more of the flavor of the food. But if you cook with it, it'll disperse better within the food product or in the food, and you won't add it afterward. And so you'll actually end up using a little less salt if you cook with salt.
Well, salt in my household has ruined many of family dinners because if I let my husband cook, he salts everything, and I'll take one bite, and I'm like, ugh, I just can't. It's just, my taste buds they just absolutely refuse it. And I'm like, how many, 12 years now, 12 years, and you've learned nothing. Nothing. I don't like salt on my food.
But that's a taste issue. If you go to a restaurant, restaurants are notorious for adding tons of salt to food. Ann Burrell had a show on the Food Network, and everybody else who cooked with salt, they put like a pinch in, and Ann Burrell was sticking her fist in there, and that's how they cook in restaurants. So they use a lot of salt in restaurants.
Well, I love like grilled onions. I love grilled onions, and I'll have them
very high in carbs
2 times a week. And but see, I don't use the regular oil. I
it's not the oil,
or I use the grapeseed oil.
It's not the oil. So, onions are very high in carbs.
I'm sorry.
It's not the oil.
Well, I really like this grapeseed oil because you can't taste the oil, and it actually enhances the flavor of the food.
Right, but it's not the oil you're using, Michelle. The onions are high in carbs themselves. They're like
the onions are very high in sugar.
Or sugar, sorry. Sugar.
Here's the thing. As we think that we're not eating a lot of sugar, we start to discover that there are more and more foods that have it. Even unprocessed foods. An onion is a very sweet. It's not even a vegetable. I'm not sure what its classification is, but an onion is very sweet. Tomatoes aren't technically vegetables. Tomatoes are fruits, so they have a higher sugar content. So it's all about when you're losing to be very judicial in your use of them or eliminate them. However, once you get to your goal and you want to maintain, then you can start adding things back in, and you add in a little at a time, and you see where your tolerance develops for them. And when you're fit and you're focused on exercise, what you're going to notice is that your body will burn through these fuels rather rapidly, and you don't have to worry about it too much. What I like to say in the maintenance phase, or I'm sorry, when you're losing, like people, I'll talk a lot about fitness, and I'll tell how you need carbohydrate for energy, and blah blah blah, and yada yada yada. And I just say, and I did a YouTube posting on this as well. It's almost like kindling in a fire. If you sit there and give it all of the carbohydrate, your body's going to burn that first. Well, if you don't put out the amount of effort it's going to take to get the stored body fat, and it takes a lot of effort, physical activity, to get the stored body fat. If you don't do it, then all you've done is burn the kindling, and the stored body fat remains in place. So you have to be careful with that. You can add it back in later because you're going to run through the kindling if you're fit, and you're going to be burning. Well, you may not even have stored body fat to burn anymore, so it doesn't become much of an issue.
Well, while we're on that subject, I have a question. Why don't vegetables have a glycemic index?
I don't know.
Isn't that weird?
I don't really know why they. I didn't know they didn't have a. I've never read the glycemic index except in passing, so I'm not really sure why they don't or it's not on there. Like I said, I just kind of keep it to the foods I know that are non-starchy, and then I add a couple of starchy ones back, and I don't sit here and I don't get real focused on the minutia of the numbers because, again, when the focus is fitness, everything else really does take care of itself, and it makes it so much easier.
Right. Well, Michelle, I'm ready to go into rapid fire questions. Are you ready? And you just jump in whenever.
Go for it.
All right.
Go for it.
All right, let's
answer them rapidly.
Let's see if we can do this. Okay, because I had a lot of questions. Okay, part of the hype of low-carb diets is that it is not heart healthy. Is that true?
No.
Okay.
You want me to go further?
Yes, go a little further. Please?
No, most of them, what we're discovering more with heart issues is most heart attacks, myocardial infarctions, and even strokes are actually caused by inflammatory issues in the body. And low-carbohydrate diets are actually anti-inflammatory in nature, and the higher sugars are what actually causes the damage to the artery. So when cholesterol goes in there and creates the plaque, it's a natural body process. That's what the body does. It repairs itself utilizing cholesterol. So what happens is we keep on these high sugar, high carbohydrate diets, we're doing more and more damage over time, and then the inflammatory process is actually causing the problem, not necessarily the dietary fat. So that's why low carbohydrate diets are now being shown to actually be heart healthy.
Okay. What are hidden carbs?
What are hidden carbs?
Hidden carbs.
Onions, we just talked about. Fruits that are disguised as vegetables. Potatoes are oftentimes referred to as a vegetable when they're really not. They're a starch. Corn is a grain, not a vegetable. So it's about making sure you're aware that the right category of food that you're eating, because a lot of times we get hung up in that. Carrots, again, are a root. They're a starchy vegetable. They're a starch per se. And a lot of times the best way to come up with that, to know for yourself, is if you can bake with it, if you can make a cake out of something, carrot cake, pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, if you can do that, more than likely you can make bread out of potatoes. It's more than likely not something you should be consuming while you're losing.
Right. What do you think about, and I'm asking this specifically for me, what do you think about diet fads like the pills that claim to reduce your carbs, like the latest one featured on Dr. Oz, which is Carcinia cambogia?
My general attitude about those is they will help you lose weight from your wallet, from your purse, your bank account. You don't need them. If they have any genuine effect, the majority of it is placebo. It's just wasted money. I mean, it makes very expensive urine. Other than that, save your money. money. Yeah, you just.
Well, I think I'm out a couple $100 then. Damn it, because I bought the special.
Right? Yes. Yeah. You need to tell her that those diet drinks they don't work. They're just expensive.
No. This is a pill. This is a pill that
and you know why you don't need it. I mean, you can get all you want out of Mother Nature, and for the most part, Mother Nature is not super expensive.
Dang it. So actually, you know what? I have a 30 day. I have a 30 day. I have a 30 day refund policy. So as soon as it gets here, I'll just turn it back around. Okay. Do you have any questions, Michelle?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Nope. I'm good. Keep going.
Which is better, to reduce carbs gradually or all at once?
Since carbohydrates can have a very addictive property to them, and I am very much a straightforward type of person, I would just reduce them all at once. However, and I've had this happen with a few of my weight loss clients, they can have some signs of either and I'll use the term withdrawal. It's not in the medical sense. It's just a general term. And so what I usually have them do is have some lower glycemic fruits, specifically berries, and then wean themselves down so they can get in the 20 to 30 gram range. Because some people do have an adverse reaction. It is about being smart about it and knowing yourself and having some good advice while it's being done. If you've never done it before, you really should get to talk to someone who has some experience with it. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Before you do anything, have a complete medical checkup. I did.
Yeah.
I was checked from head to toe. I even went to a cardiologist. So I made sure I was able to exercise without any risk. Because even though exercise is beneficial, if you're not inside fit for it, it can cause some effects that you need to concern yourself with.
I want to go back to the glycemic index really quick because some people listening may not understand it. What is the glycemic index and the glycemic load, and what's the difference between the two?
I have to be totally honest with you. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Glycemic index is just a measure of, I believe it's a measure of how a food will affect your insulin levels. Since I don't eat those kind of foods, I don't concern myself with it very much.
Okay. Are high protein diets and low carbohydrate diets the same thing?
How do I answer that one?
You don't have to.
If you're on a lower carbohydrate diet, you're eating a greater percentage of your foods from proteins and fats. It's all about if you're adding extra to it, like people who do something called bulletproof coffee, where they'll add either butter or coconut oil to their coffee.
What?
To me, that is unnecessary. Yeah, I'm
butter to coffee.
Google it. I don't know a lot about it, but I don't find that to be unnecessary. I don't think you need to add fats where they're not there for either food preparation or just in the natural part of the food. Like there's fat in eggs, there's fat in nuts, there's fat in cheeses. I don't add extra fats and I don't add extra proteins. I'm not sitting here sucking down a protein shake in addition to everything I eat, unless of course I'm competing in strength athletics, and that's a different story. But I don't think that's required to actually go out of your way to increase it. Yes, percentage-wise, you're going to have more fat and protein in your diet because you've cut carbohydrates. But when you call something high, it usually implies that you're adding something. And since I don't really add, I just eliminate or reduce. That's why I always use the term low carbohydrate. I don't really use high protein or high fat. As a percentage goes, yes, you have a higher percentage, but I don't sit here and go crazy adding. Like I have 3 or 4 eggs for breakfast. I don't have a half a dozen to a dozen of them. So that's how I view that.
Right.
Well, adding the coconut oil or butter to coffee, really? That doesn't even sound appetizing. I'll put a cinnamon stick in the pot, and give it a little flavor, but butter.
If they like it more, but like I said, I mean, I don't need to rain on someone else's theories. I mean, I may not agree with them. The only thing I'm hardcore about is moderation. I think moderation produces mediocrity. I don't like the word. I don't let people use it around me. Other than that, I'm flexible. If anybody wants to do anything and it works for them, even if I disagree with it, I'm not going to sit here and tell them they're wrong. And just I have a different viewpoint on it.
Right.
Right.
I've heard people say that they are on a no-carb diet. Is that even possible? I don't even know how that's possible.
You can never be 100% zero carb because chicken has carbohydrate, eggs have carbohydrate in them, but what they're doing is mostly what's called a ketogenic diet. And I am not a fan, though. I know people who do them, and I'm friendly with people who do them. I'm not a fan of ketogenic diets for long-term health and wellness. They have an effect in treatment. If someone has epilepsy, there are studies and there are actually treatment protocols designed around what's called a ketogenic diet. I don't think in the long run it's the best way to go. I think even Dr. Atkins talked about some issues with thyroid problems on long-term ketogenic diets, and there's a problem with insulin insensitivity or sensitivity, I can't remember which, with long-term ketogenic diets as well. I don't personally care for them. I do know people who do them. They're having success. Whether they're healthful, I don't 100% know either way. If someone likes it and they're doing well, like I said, more power to them. I view common sense. I view using the innate intelligence of the body. As a chiropractor, we secrete salivary amylase. We secrete different enzymes. Glucose and glucagon. We do all these different enzymes to metabolize carbohydrate. It's just how much carbohydrate we take into our body can affect our fitness, our obesity issues, our weight, and things like that. So it's being aware of them. I'm not a big fan of restricting carbohydrates all the way down to zero for short or long term. Even when I'm losing, I still have about 20 or 30 grams a day.
Right. So how...
Okay, right. Yeah, that's what I think that's what the Atkins is.
Yeah.
Is keeping it under 20 initially and then gradually increasing it.
Right, and that's the thing. People look at the Atkins diet, and one of the reasons I don't talk about the Atkins diet frequently is because most people's understanding of the Atkins diet is the 2-week induction phase. Most people haven't taken, and I'm not saying all, but a lot of people, I won't even say most, a lot of people haven't taken time to read the whole book. You know, Dr. Atkins didn't advocate the 2-week induction phase for life. But a lot of people see the 2-week induction phase, and the reason they get fixated on the 2-week induction phase is because they don't maintain it.
Yeah.
Yo on and off it, so they've never gotten past the 2-week induction phase.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Once you get past that first 2 weeks, I noticed that when I first did it 12 years ago, when I got past the 2 weeks of the induction phase, I didn't even crave it anymore. Like every once in a blue moon, I would have a craving for sweets, but Atkins did have, or does still have, some like chocolate type desserts that you can buy that are like 3 or 4 carbs. You know, enough if you've got a big sweet tooth, which I don't have a big sweet tooth. And this is another thing that I wanted to bring up, and it's not rapid fire, but I'm on like a lot of different medication, which causes me to be nauseated like all day long. I just feel like I can't eat anything, and I just feel nauseous all day. And until I start getting tired, do I even start to feel the pangs of hunger. And then I eat like right before I go to bed. Even now with the low carb, I'm having a hard time forcing myself to eat. And I know that this is where I have gained all this weight because it's been this way for years. So like I won't eat throughout the day, and then I'll eat like right before I go to bed, which, you know, I wasn't eating the healthiest foods like regular pasta and sauce and stuff like that. But there's got to be a way that I can kickstart my system into wanting to eat. Do I just force myself to eat and eventually my body will get used to it? I don't know.
Well, again, I'm a chiropractor, not a medical doctor, so I can't speak on drugs legally.
Right.
But from a common sense approach, if you give yourself just a little bit of food, you'll probably end up feeling less nauseous. Because a lot of the stuff with the medications is they have a negative impact in the gut. A lot of them are supposed to be taken with food. Not all, but a lot of them are. So if you're allowed to take food with them, just a little. You don't have to go crazy. Have a piece of cheese or a teaspoon of peanut butter. Eventually, you'll get over the nauseous thing. But what you may discover is if you take control of your health and wellness, and again, I don't know the medications you're on, but when you take control of your health and wellness, you may not even need those medications down the road. There are so many studies now with the effects of sugar on brain activity, neurological. Dr. David Perlmutter wrote a book called Grain Brain, talking about carbohydrates influencing Alzheimer's disease. There are reports in the New York Times a year or two ago where people were starting to refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. A lot of psychiatrists and psychologists that I've read different places, and I really wish I could remember their names because I hate throwing that out without having anything more definitive to back it up. But they have even said reducing sugar in the diet can bring down the need for some psychotropic medications. So as you take control of your health and wellness, you go to your medical doctor or your prescribing doctors, and you may end up finding yourself coming off some of the medications that are bothering your stomach so much anyway.
Good point. Very good point. Point well taken.
Okay.
I do want to ask though, is low carb bad for your kidneys?
I've heard that rumor for years. I've never had any issues. I don't know of any studies, and I'm not saying they don't exist. I just don't know of them that would support that contention. As long as you're drinking plenty of water, you keep your kidney function fairly regular. I've never had any experience. I've never even had a kidney stone, knock on wood, because now that I said it, I've never even but I've never actually had a kidney stone or anything like that. So, from personal experience, I can say no. I do know there are a lot of talk about it. I don't know if there's anything that has been done specifically. I'm not saying there hasn't been. There's just nothing I've been aware of. And part of it is I just never came across it, and the other part is I've never looked for it either.
Right. Well, I think a person's base health has a lot to do with their diet. I keep telling my mom that she has type 2 diabetes. She went from the oral medication to the
insulin,
the injection. Now she's on the liquid injection, which she shoots herself in the leg every day. And it turns out she's allergic she has an allergy to soy. I didn't even know that was possible to have an allergy to soy. But she eats a lot of pasta, and I keep trying to tell her, you need to, cut this out because that's having the effect on you. She's cut out she's minimized the breads and stuff, but she drinks diet soda like it's going out of style. Yeah. And she does eat a lot of pasta, so.
It's hard to get people to take responsibility for their own health. I had someone pretty close to me who has a lot of health issues, and I've been trying to get this gentleman on a low-carbohydrate diet for quite a while. And he said, well, if I get diabetes, I'll just inject myself. I'm like, it amazes me how we are so willing as a society to take medication daily, but we're not willing to exercise a little bit every day. We're not willing to eat healthier foods a little bit every day, but we're so willing. We have become such a nation of pill poppers. And again, I'm not being critical of anybody. Please don't take this the wrong way.
Right.
Oh no, I totally agree with you.
I do too.
We've been so conditioned that it's normal. It's like I had all these heart issues a little while ago. It turns out I have something called the myocardial bridge. I don't have a heart problem. My artery, my left descending coronary artery goes through the muscle. In a certain position, I'll get twinges of pain or sensations that make me think I was having a heart attack. Took forever to diagnose it and get it taken care of. My cardiologist says, okay, well, make sure you continue to take a baby aspirin every day. And I looked at him, I said, why? He said, well, that's the standard protocol. You're over 40 now, and you have the myocardial bridge, and it'll keep the. But I'm like, but the myocardial bridge, you told me, will not affect me where I need medication. That's right. So if I keep exercising and take care of myself, And he said, yeah, but you should take a baby aspirin every day. And I said, well, I'll take it under advice, and I went home and threw out my baby aspirin. The thing is that, we have become so conditioned to taking some type of medication. I mean, how many people take the little purple pill every day for acid reflux? When they would just reduce the carbohydrates in their diet, because carbohydrates blow up in your belly, and they push the acid back up. We wouldn't have to worry about taking the little purple pill every day. We wouldn't have to, how many guys, and I'm not sure how bad I can be, so I'll try not to be too vulgar with this, but, how many, we've made drug companies billions of dollars to give guys an erection when all they have to do is exercise and eat a couple eggs every day. The guys, the guys in the ad for Viagra, you look at them, they're male models. The people going in for the prescription aren't.
Exactly.
They're not healthy. They're not fit. They don't take care of themselves. Cholesterol is such a key component to proper health and nourishment in the human body. Most guys who have low T, which is my favorite BS diagnosis on the planet, eat a couple of damn eggs and exercise. You know what all those things do combined? They elevate your testosterone level.
Ooh! Oh my God. Okay, what about bone loss?
Yeah. So ridiculous.
What about bone loss? Go ahead, Michelle.
Hello?
Yeah. Barbie?
Yeah. I was saying, what about bone loss?
You're cutting out.
I said, what about bone loss?
What about
bone loss?
Yes.
Bone loss.
Bone loss. Calcium you can get from green leafy vegetables. There's a ton of it in green leafy vegetables. Butter is a nice concentrated form of it. Cook with butter. Add a little bit of butter to your vegetables. A little bit. I'm not saying you take a stick of butter and toss it on a small plate of broccoli, for God's sakes. But throw a little butter on there. There's a ton of calcium in butter. Again, the green leafy vegetables. So if you take a little butter on broccoli, you've got a lot of calcium, and you're getting it dietarily. Your body will now digest it. Your body will produce a little acid. Your body requires acid to absorb calcium. One of my favorites is when they talk about antacids being a good source of calcium. And I just say, are you freaking kidding me? The whole point is you need an acidic environment to absorb it. Well, what does an antacid do? Reduces the acid.
Yes. All right.
So, yeah, there are things that you can do without having to go crazy.
Right.
Yeah, I've noticed you push butter a lot.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
You haven't mentioned margarine or any of the alternatives. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, because margarine is one chemical shy of plastic.
Oh my gosh.
There's no margarine plant in anywhere that I can find one. Use butter. I mean, I don't push butter, but eat butter. If you want a dietary fat that tastes good, you can cook with it. Eat butter. Like I said, I use coconut oil for a lot of my cooking. I add butter to vegetables. I use olive oil in dressings. I do use other forms, but I just mentioned butter because we were talking about that. And the other thing for bone density is weight-bearing exercise. Weightlifting, exercises that make the bone denser, walking, jogging, things like that. We've become so fixated on, running is bad for your joints. Well, no, really it isn't. If your joint doesn't have a problem to start with, it's not going to give you joint problems, and as long as you're smart about it. I don't jog on concrete and pavement. I go to a local high school track and I jog. But bone responds to stress by becoming more dense. This is actually something called Wolff's Law in physiology. Well, if we start, everything we do is non-weight bearing. We swim, we use the elliptical, we go on the stationary bike, and then we wonder why we're still getting osteoporosis. Because you're not stressing the bone. And weightlifting will stress the bone multi-angular, because as you lift weight, the tendon will pull on the bone, and that will also cause an increase in density. And again, this is nothing super scientific and voodoo out there. It's called, like I said, called Wolff's Law. You can look it up. It's one of the basic concepts of skeletal physiology, and we tend to get away from that.
Huh. Imagine that.
this is a...
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, because we're all focused on, we have to protect the joints. And again, if you have a problem, I'm talking about the normal, healthy individual. I was jogging at 300 pounds. I started jogging at 320 when I was 294. I started jogging again. I just use a little common sense. I go to this high school that we live in. The track has a cork-based layer, so it'll absorb some of it, but I still get weight bearing, and I still get some stress to the skeletal system because the skeletal system responds favorably to stress. So we have to make sure we stress it. Our body responds to stressors. Bodybuilders, athletes, weightlifters, they get stronger by stressing their muscular system. They don't get stronger by sitting behind their computer moving the mouse.
Right. Very good.
I have a question here.
Okay.
And it drives me nuts. Why, when you go to the store and you purchase, say, whether it be meat or even a vegetable, sometimes the carb count varies. What is the difference between one chicken and another or one green bean and another, besides carbs?
I would look at the serving size on the label. Not everybody uses the same serving size, the same measure. A serving size can vary. I know it's really... It used to be, and I'm not sure if it still is, because like I said, I don't buy anything with labels anymore, but it used to be really predominant in low-fat foods. My favorite was, we don't want to mention name brands, a certain cookie that was chocolate with a white cream filling.
Oh!
If you looked at their low-fat version, it was like, 1/3 less fat. And if you looked at the serving size of the cookies, the full fat version had 3 cookies as a serving size, and the low fat had 2 cookies as a serving size.
Right.
Oh, that would make that difference.
Makes a big... So you have to also look at what exactly the serving size is by weight and everything like that. Like I said, I really try to encourage people on this. Don't get so nuts that you're counting carbohydrates in chicken or eggs or certain vegetables, as long as you're not eating starches. As long as you're just following a basic guideline, you're going to be fine. You're going to keep it in the 20 to 30 range. My book, the Phase 1 of guidelines, if you eat that, you're eating between 20 and 30 grams a day, so you're pretty safe without having to think about it. I don't like to think too much. I think enough between my practice, between teaching, between writing, because I'm a contributor to 2 websites now, 2 online magazines. So I think enough there. I don't want to think about my food. I just know what the basics are. I eat them. Now, I don't also need to go crazy to have it all flavored up. I do some things. I got a great recipe Dana Carpenter had sent me for a noodleless lasagna. And it's a little higher in fat than I normally eat, but boy, you don't even miss the noodles in it. And it's delicious. So there are different things you can do, and you don't have to think a whole lot about it. I wasn't checking the ingredient labels out that drastically because, in the long run, it comes to maybe a gram or 2 in carbohydrate, then that's not going to make or break. I mean, if you're losing and your carbohydrate content is between 20 and 30 a day, and you have 32, you're not going to gain 10 pounds overnight because you had 2 extra grams.
Right.
Right. Well, see, when I tried the Atkins diet a few years ago, I was counting the carbs, and for me, I mean, I was on a high protein where, I didn't eat the breads, and I did eat a lot of meat, and vegetables. To me, the carbs were okay. I could have a yogurt in the morning, and then I'm done with my carbs for the day, and so I wasn't taking into consideration that everything else I was eating had the carbs as well. So I was actually higher, but I was still losing weight. So,
well, yeah, and you will, and because you're not taking in that much extra. And the thing again with Atkins was a diet to lose weight. I mean, that's all Atkins cared about. And I'm not being critical of Dr. Atkins. I think he was a great business person. He was a good doctor, and he had brass genitalia.
Gotcha.
Because he took a lot of criticism, and the medical establishment in the days when Atkins came out, they could have tried to get his license taken away because he was a cardiologist promoting a low-carbohydrate diet. But Atkins was more about weight loss, and I'm more about fitness. So that's why I don't even bother. Atkins had the sweet tooth that Barbie mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's why all those products came into being.
Yep.
I would not eat those on a regular basis. I was going to say if you paid me, but I guess if Atkins International offered me a contract like in a year, I'd do it.
Well,
I didn't eat the Atkins products. I mean, I did.
Right.
well, speaking of
In
which,
general, when you talk about that, that's why his focus was on counting carbohydrates, and my focus is on eating real foods that happen to be lower in carbohydrates. And I think it's a real minimal distinction, but it's an important distinction because it really changes your whole way of thinking about how you're eating.
Okay, so what was the name of your book?
The first book was Obesity, Undone, and that's available on Amazon. And my second book, about where I discuss my relapse, is called Sometimes the Bastard Returns. and that's what I call obesity. Obesity is a bastard, and you have to be vigilant. I mean, I never thought I would backslide, and it was a humbling experience, to say the least.
well, I just have a couple more questions.
Sure.
One, what is your best favorite low-carb snack?
What is my favorite low-carb snack?
Mm-hmm.
Natural peanut butter, almonds, cheese occasionally. I mostly go with nuts. I eat cashews. I love almonds, but almonds don't like me for whatever, unless I have to be real vigilant about chewing them. So cashews, walnuts. Like I said, natural peanut butter, natural almond butter. I just don't feel like paying $15 for a jar of almond butter. I would have to make my own. But things like that, mostly the nuts and veggies. Every now and then, celery is a real good one. It's quick, it's easy. In my maintenance phase, I will have fruit as a snack. I will have an apple mid-morning and some berries maybe mid-afternoon. Again, occasionally we'll have a banana. What I try to do, though, especially with apples and bananas, I try to cut them with natural peanut butter to help keep the blood sugar a little more stable.
Right. Speaking of blood sugar, what about alcohol? Does that affect a low-carb diet?
You can, according to Atkins, you can drink the hard stuff on a low-carbohydrate diet. A serving of wine, most people don't know what a serving of wine is. It's not a goblet. It's 4 ounces. I don't drink any alcohol at all anymore, and it's not because I'm a teetotaler or one of those type of people. What I realize that I'm trying to increase my metabolism, and alcohol is a systemic depressive agent. It makes you go slower. And I thought, well, that kind of is counterintuitive and counterproductive to what I want to do, so I cut alcohol out altogether. And, I mean, I may have a glass of wine at a holiday or something like that, but what I've come to realize is, God, I felt like crap drinking alcohol. Even when I was doing the very first time where I was doing Atkins, and I'd have like a gin and diet tonic, and I thought, once you get alcohol out of your system after about a month, you don't even want it anymore because you realize that it doesn't make you feel any better. It really just slows you down and clouds your mind.
Right. What about...
Plus, you doing say stupid things.
Yeah, right. Don't drink in Facebook! What about vitamins or something? Huh?
Vitamins?
Yeah, I was going to say, what about vitamins and minerals and supplements and all that stuff? Because I don't know if this is a myth or not, but a lot of people think that if you're low carb, that you need extra potassium.
I take a multivitamin, multi-mineral every day, and my only rationale is why not? I read a really good book. I did a review of it actually by Moira and Jay Calton, or Mira and Jay Calton, I can't remember her first name, which is terrible, called Naked Calories. And one of the things they talked about in there is the soil depletion. So I think, I take one good multivitamin, multi-mineral every day. So a lot of times my urine is bright yellow, which means that it's, making my urine expensive. But I figure, it's not super expensive. I don't go crazy with it. And it's mostly just to cover myself. Whether I actually need it or not, I'm not sure. Whether we actually need them or not, I'm not 100% positive. But, as long as you're not having issues, one a day isn't really going to cause much of an impact. The only thing I tell men to make sure they get a male-formulated one, because men should not take supplemental iron. It can have issues with their heart.
I have 2 more questions, and then I'll turn it over to Michelle before we end the show. The next question that I have is, I guess in my case, I need to know the answer to this. If you cheat on your low-carb intake, do you need to start over? Or does it depend on how long and how many carbs you've had?
Your premise is flawed. Because if you cheat, then you just go back the next day and you're eating what you normally eat anyway. So,
right.
If you cheat for more than a week, like say if you go on vacation, I just came off vacation, I wasn't super good on vacation, but anything past that, but anything past that, if I'm back home and back in my routine and I'm still eating like that, then I'm no longer eating a proper diet anyway. So, since I don't go on and off a diet, the premise isn't too accurate, because if you've been eating carbs for 3 weeks, well, I've got news for you. You're not eating a low-carb diet anymore.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the premise isn't very accurate because of that. And again, when I got up to 294, when I had my relapse, someone said, well, why don't you try something different? Maybe what you're doing isn't working anymore. And I was like, well, no, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. My normal diet didn't consist of a dozen donuts. Well, it did when I was getting up to 294 a day. So, yeah, it's just, if you take a splurge, and I do encourage in the first book, Plan Splurges, because I like to eat just like anybody else. Thanksgiving, I like stuffing, I like potatoes, and I eat them. And, this Thanksgiving, it lasted a little longer than I had wanted it to, and I blogged about it and beat myself up. Eventually, I got back on track and kept moving forward. The biggest key is if you make a mistake or an error, or if you eat something you're not supposed to, don't focus on it. Don't go crazy about it. Make sure you learn from it and move forward, because all the worry, all the stress, and all the anxiety isn't going to change the fact that you ate it.
Right.
So don't worry about it.
My last question is, if the nutritional info on a package says 0 carbs, is that correct?
No. Zero anything, I forget what they define as zero. I think it's less than half a gram is what they can technically define as zero. I'm not so, when it comes to carbs, I don't really worry about it because I don't read the labels, but I remember there was a whole, and again, this goes back to the Food Network, Alton Brown talking about it. You're talking about fat-free cooking sprays. Mm-hmm. Well, oil is all fat. So how could it be fat-free?
Very true.
And the thing was, it was the measure of the serving size. So that's what you have to be careful with. Again, my big thing is avoid foods that have labels and or require labels, and you don't really have to worry about it. Just keep everything focused on the whole foods, the wholesome, lower carbohydrate foods, your eggs, your cheeses, your meats, your fishes, your certain vegetables, and you don't even really have to worry about counting. My buddy Jack Lane, I met him once, but it was in passing. Wish I had to get a chance to pick his brain, because Jack was fond of saying, when you go to a grocery store, never go down an aisle. Shop the perimeter where all the whole foods are, and you're safe.
Right. I never thought about it that way. I never thought about it that way, because it's true. It's so true.
It's like these people with these kids that their kids are just off the hook, bouncing off the walls, and and then they go get diagnosed for ADD or whatever, which I don't believe in. I think it all boils down to diet. Maybe there's a small percentage that do need to be medicated, but I think the majority, it boils down to diet. And when you see what these kids are eating, I call it crap on a shingle. But it's because the family units broke down you know, where it's usually single mothers, and they're looking for convenience and easy feeds, and their freezer is full of processed, pre-made foods. And I firmly believe that this is exactly what is wrong with the children.
That's you know what?
Too. That's what's wrong with a lot of adults
too.
That does bring up another.
When it comes down to,
that does bring up another question.
Sugar is the enemy.
That brings up another question: is if you have a child that is overweight, is this a healthy alternative for them?
Oh, definitely. And if you have a child who's overweight, never mention their appearance or their weight. Focus on their health and their wellness.
Right.
Never, ever talk, because we have such a society screwed up with body image as it is.
Yep.
What we don't want to do with all of this, and I talk a lot about childhood obesity, and what we don't want to do is we don't want to create anorexia nervosa.
Right.
So never, ever mention the child's weight to an overweight child. Focus on their fitness and their wellness, and lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to start having your child eat lean meats, vegetables, everything else, and you're sitting down there eating pasta with a slice of chocolate cake, well, I've got news for you. Even if you're not overweight, you're not helping your child. It has to be done as a familial thing. It has to be done together. Do it with the child. If you want your child to exercise more, go out with your child and exercise with your child. If you don't have the time, then make the freaking time. You're a parent. We have to take care of our children. Look, if anybody in this world thinks I love it when the alarm goes off at 4:06 in the morning so I can go work out before I start my crazy work day, they're crazy. I would much rather not get up at that hour, but that's when I can make the time so I can still work, spend time with my girlfriend and her daughter, and do all the things we do as a family unit. I get up at that hour so I can get it done. So you have to make the time. Lack of time does exist for some people. I'm not going to sit here and say it never exists. But a lot of times that can be mitigated with proper planning. And again, on Sunday, I cook my food for the week. And I put it in my fridge here. And I know a lot of people don't like microwaving. And, everybody's got their issue. But that's what I do. I don't have to think about it. I'm going to get off the phone with you ladies. I'm going to run in, get my food, put it in the microwave, and have my lunch. I'm not even thinking about it. There are ways to get around things with proper planning can make such a difference. But if we want our children to be healthier, then we have to be healthier too. Telling our child not to drink soda while you're sucking down a Coke is ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know what? Honestly, I have not drank a Coke in years. Not even a Diet Coke in years. I don't like when I was doing the Atkins, I did drink Diet Coke or Diet Sprite, and then they came out with Sprite Zero, which I like that much better. The taste just tasted different. But one more question from me is, and I don't know whether this is a myth or not, but people believe that obesity is in your genes, that it runs in the family. And for me, I would have to say it probably does, because all the women in my family, my half sister, she's stayed pretty thin most of her life, but me and my other sister and my brother have, we're all overweight. My sister Kelly, she lost a lot of weight. Doing the low carb, and she went in and had some surgeries done, and I'm not going to go all over because she'll kill me. But the other question is once you've lost that weight, what happens with the excess skin? Does it retract, or do you have to surgically have it removed? Or if you want, I'm not saying you should, how does that work? Because I don't know.
All right, well, the first question, there is definitely a propensity towards obesity genetically. There's no arguing. My body type is what's called an endomesomorph. I'm a cross between the two. I gain a lot of weight, I gain a lot of muscle. But, we're not slaves to it. See, I don't like when people start, because now all of a sudden, if I have a genetic predisposition to gaining weight, then how did I lose weight? So, yes, we do have a genetic predisposition, but I think people start using that as their excuse, and I'm not a fan of the excuse makers. Your second question about excess skin, a lot of it will resorb on its own, unless you have, tons of it where, it's hanging down to your knee. Big deal. look, I don't really care.
Right.
I have a little excess skin hanging on my gut. I mean, and I'm a fairly vain person, but you know, I'm not going to sit here and pay a whole bunch of money and run the risk of anesthesia and everything else to have a little bit of loose skin removed. Eventually, it will resorb to a certain degree. But we have to also think, how many times are you walking around naked in society? So,
right.
Right. Most of the time we have clothes on. So who really cares? If someone you love has an issue with it, get rid of them and find someone else to love. They don't really love you that much.
I was so totally going to say that, is that if my husband, loves me at the weight I am now, then a little extra skin ain't going to bother him one little bit. Michelle,
right.
did you have any more questions or concerns?
Nope, I'm good.
We're good?
I really enjoyed this show.
I did too.
I think you have a great program there. You're on to something that I think everybody should read your book. I think a lot of people will benefit from it. I've learned a lot from you. I mean, I didn't know that about my carrots. I was told, but I didn't want to believe it. Don't take my carrots.
Well,
once you're at your goal, you can have some every day. It's just a matter of getting to your goal to get there. And again, it is more about keeping things in a natural state. But the real enemy, and I was starting to say this a little bit earlier, is sugar. There are so many issues involved with the consumption of refined processed sugars. Even Dr. Lustig, when he was on 60 Minutes, was talking about under MRI, showing that cancer cells actually have a response to the sugar with an insulinogenic, I can't remember the exact term, I apologize, but where they will feed off the sugar. So there are actually some studies or some protocols, I'm not really sure what term to use, where they're trying to help starve cancer cells by decreasing the amount of sugar in the diet. I'm not saying treat it with that, but it's an adjuvant or it's an adjunct therapy to chemo or radiation or to surgical. So it really does come down to the processed sugars in our diet. While we may have enzymes to break down certain starchy foods and all that other stuff, we don't have any real need outside of taste for sugar.
Right, and I have to retract my earlier statement when I said I don't eat sugar, because obviously I do. I guess what I meant to say was that I don't eat the candy bars and the sweets, and that's what
and once you get to your goal, you'd be able to add some of those natural foods back in to your diet, but because unfortunately you, like me, must have a genetic pre-programming for this, we just have to be aware of how much we're taking and be judicious in the amounts we take into our diet. People don't like to hear that. Some people don't like to hear, but unfortunately, that's just the sad truth. I write in my book, I write this one sentence where, but hey, doc, I have a friend of mine who eat like a garbage can and they never get any weight. And my response is, well, you're not that person, so deal with it.
Right.
I hate to be tough. Get over it. You're not that person, and you have to make, if you want. And I never tell a single person, and this is something I'd like to get in before we close. I never tell a single person they need to lose weight. It's not my call. Yes, obesity is a genuine health problem. And when I have patients where I think losing weight will help their particular issue out, that's a different story. But if you walked up to me and you weighed 700 pounds and said, Doc, do you think I need to lose weight? My response is, you think you need to lose weight.
Right.
Because me thinking you need to lose weight is never going to help you get to your goal.
Right.
That's a pretty good analogy. I like that. I really do.
Right.
Well,
yes, and Barbie, remember, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, you don't go on a diet, you eat a diet. And diet is defined by whatever you put into your mouth. If you eat a lower carbohydrate diet, you eat a low carb diet. If you eat a lot of crap, you eat a crap diet. Diet is just what we consume. It's just a matter of, don't worry about going on or off. You're making these changes to live healthier, live a better life. And we didn't spend a lot of time on the exercise part of this, but that's really where it comes down to. You have to focus on your fitness levels. And as your fitness levels improve, my body doesn't crave the donuts and the pastas anymore. It's funny because I'll actually sit here and crave like a grilled chicken salad because that's what my body needs to repair itself from the work that I've put it through.
I'm glad you brought up the thing about fitness, which is for somebody that's just starting out, that doesn't normally get a lot of fitness. Say, for instance, walking. If they want to take up walking, if they're just starting out, about how many minutes per day would you consider, or should they walk? Or it just depends on how their body feels?
It depends on their starting health, and that's the most important thing. But I tell people, look, if you can walk a half a block, go walk a half a block every day. Mm-hmm. And then the next week, add a little bit more, and then a little bit more. It is all about starting slow. In my first book, when I talk about exercise, I actually have it divided into two phases. I have what's called a pre-training phase. And the first 2 months of my exercise program, which is a gym-based program, but the first 2 months of my program are to get you in shape to actually go ahead and exercise. It is a process. It is a process that has to be done gradually. You have to make sure you don't get injured. You want to make sure that, one, you're healthy enough to do it, because if you have an underlying condition, you have to be aware of that, because that'll also modify whatever type of exercise you choose to do. Mm-hmm. But it's always about starting slow. It's about pushing yourself within your own limits, not pushing yourself within someone else's limit. I jog. I don't like jogging at all. I'm not built for it. I don't like it. But it works. It builds my endurance better. It helps me burn stored body fat better. I go and do it. I push myself into my own limits. I'm never going to run a 4-minute mile. Hell, I'll be lucky if I ever run an 8-minute mile. But I push myself within my own limits every time I work out, because if you don't push yourself, again, within your limits, eventually you're going to reach stagnation. So exercise is about always striving to do a little bit more. Strongman competitors are crazy people. I love them. And I remember when I was competing years upon years ago, before strongman even became a thing, we would sit there and take a little lead weight that maybe weighed a half a pound, and we'd tape it to a dumbbell just so we could do a half a pound more the next workout. Am I saying you need to do that? No. But the concept is there that you want to push yourself just a little bit further in your workout, but again, make sure it's within your own limits, and of course, make sure you're healthy enough to do it.
Right.
Right. Right, Dad.
Well, Dr. Leonardi, you're an author. You mentioned your other books, but you also have Obesity, Undone, and then Fat Then, Fit Now. Are those on Amazon as well?
Yeah, Fat Then, Fit Now was the first edition of Obesity, Undone. Fat Then, Fit Now is no longer in print. I just rolled it over into a little bit bigger of a book, and that's Obesity Undone. The other book, the second book, is Sometimes the Bastard Returns, and that discusses, and the subtitle is A True Life Account of Obesity Relapse.
Okay. You're also a contributor to CarbSmart.com's CarbSmart magazine, correct?
Right, and I just started doing with AmirRosic.com. He does Optimal Life, and I just submitted my first contribution to his last week, and I think it's going to be up this week as well. Amir interviewed me about a week or two ago for his website, and he was looking for contributors. And on his site, I'm going to do more about fitness-oriented stuff, the diet.
Right. What about naturallysavvy.com?
You also have a practice also.
Yes.
Can people come see you personally if they're in the area? Where are you located?
I'm located in Kingston, Pennsylvania, and I do both chiropractic practice, and my chiropractic practice is what's called a concierge practice. I don't take any insurance. I charge $40 a month, and we bill it to a credit or debit card, and people come as often as they need. My weight loss is a motivational business that's separate from my practice, and my fees are $75 for the first meeting, and I keep it very affordable, $35 a month. You come see me once a week. I give you as much email and online support as you need, and I keep you focused and on track to reaching your weight loss and fitness goals.
Awesome.
Oh, so people that aren't even in your area can still benefit from your services.
Oh, yeah, actually, I have a website, obesityundone.com, and that website for $10 a month will give you access to all of my diet information, my exercise information, my points to staying focused. It's all done on video.
Awesome.
And you sign up, and once a month I will send you a new password as long as the billing keeps up. You bill it on a credit or debit card. That's only $10 a month.
Awesome.
Oh, very good. That's easy and affordable.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do. I want people to be, I try to remove the barriers, and a lot of times cost is a barrier for a lot of people. So if I remove that barrier, a lot of times it's all it takes to get them where they need to go. Everybody thinks they need to spend a fortune, and you really don't.
Right.
Right.
Well, Dr.
Save it for the good food.
I read in the ebook that you sent me. And by the way, I just wanted to know, can I pass that to Michelle? I haven't sent it to anybody, but can I send those 2 books that you sent me? Okay, I just wanted to make sure before, I don't want to get in trouble for copyright or anything.
No, of course you can't.
I found in the opening of one of the books, or maybe it was on one of your websites, I'm sorry, but I didn't want to say it until after the show because I wanted to make sure I felt the same way, and I think this describes you 100%. And what I found is where it states that you uncomplicate weight loss and fitness, and that you are a self-help weight loss and fitness guru like no other, in that you skip the long-winded, overcomplicated medical jargon and the scientific gobbledygook. And I believe, and I'm sure Michelle would say so too, that you're a conversationalist. You're not pretentious or unnecessarily technical. You just give people the tools that they need to reach their goals. And I got a lot out of this show today. I think this is probably one of the best shows we've ever done.
I think so too. What I also like is that he's talking from experience. It's not somebody that, is some twig, that's just trying to make money. I mean, he's passing on his what he's learned and his knowledge, and I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And also, one thing I do want to say, because a lot of times people get a hang-up about this. Look, I'm an unabashed capitalist. I am trying to make a living doing this, and I don't make any apologies for charging money. I don't think I charge a lot of money, but there's nothing wrong with somebody charging money for their time and expertise. A lot of this went into my personal experience, but I also have a lot of education to back up the experience that I've had with this. And I'm not, again, please, I'm not trying to be critical, but a lot of times people will make the assumption because you're charging for it, well, you're just out there to make money. I'm charging for it because it took me a time to do this. And yes, I am trying to make money because the last time I checked, nobody goes to work and expects not to be paid.
That is so true.
I know.
That is so true.
I always find that amusing. It's like, well, are you going to go to your job? And I get nailed on Facebook. They'll email me and say, well, what can I do with this and this? And I'll give them a little bit of advice. I'll say, but a lot of the information is here in my book. My book is only $9.99 for the ebook, and it's, I think, under $20 for the paperback. And it's like, well, what do you mean I have to buy your book? Like,
right. They can just come and tune into our show.
Well, they can do it too. But, it's like, I don't have the time to go back and forth with emails constantly, and I wrote it all into a book so it's easy to follow and easy to understand, so you can do it anywhere. Now, a lot of people need my help personally one-on-one, and that's why the website is an extension of this. And like I said, the website is dirt cheap for now.
Right.
I'm honestly thinking about raising the price of the website in the future, but for now it's $10 a month, and the exercises are described and shown in video. The meal plan is all done in video. My tips focused are all done in video, so it takes a little time to load, but everything is there. It's in writing and explained. So hopefully, if there's questions, they can be answered there. And of course, if they join the website, they can there's a direct email address for me that they get, and it's a private email address, and that email address I check frequently, and I provide online support that way as well.
Very nice.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's been a great show. I've learned a lot. I'm going to send those books straight over to Michelle. And it's obesityundone.com, you said?
Yes.
Okay. I'm definitely going to be going and checking that out. Do we get a little sneak preview when we first look at the site? Does it tell us?
There's a welcome page, which I'm going to redesign in another couple of weeks. But the information to get to, there's a password that comes up, a password and a username and password prompt will come up.
Awesome.
But, since you guys were nice enough to interview me all this time, I will go ahead and make sure I forward that off to you so you can get a little sneak into it.
Aw, you're so sweet. And if we don't get it, we will hound you until we do. No, I'm kidding. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. We kept you for 2 hours and 6 minutes, which is way over the amount of time I think we allotted for you, or that you allotted for us is the way I should have said it. Any more questions or anything, Michelle, before we say goodbye? Michelle? Did we lose Michelle? I don't know. All of a sudden, you guys just got muted. No. I looked at.
Muting you.
I looked at the screen and I'm like,
oh my gosh, she's not gonna be able to hear me now. No, I'm good. I think this was an awesome show. I want to thank you for giving us your time and your knowledge. And I think what you're doing is wonderful. You're offering a wonderful service, and I mean, even if you do raise the price, I still think it's worth it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I want to thank both of you for having me on, for the opportunity to reach your listeners. It's a group of people I'm sure probably never heard of me before. So I'm very grateful for you allowing me the opportunity to come on and hopefully, someone will get some benefit out of what we talked about.
Thank you so much for coming on to the show. And we will post links on the event, actually, to all the books and your magazines and as well as your website. So people can go check that out. Thank everyone for tuning in to Stripped Radio. We will be back hopefully next week with a different topic. I'm not quite sure what we're doing next week. Michelle, any ideas?
Nope, I have no idea.
No idea.
I guess we can hash that out later.
Well, we can figure it out. Well, again, thank everyone for tuning in to Stripped Radio. Have a blessed day, and we will see you soon.
You've just been stripped. Thanks for listening to Stripped Radio, where it's real, it's raw, it's real raw radio.